The stagecoach rattled into Oroville, California on a blistering August afternoon in 1882, and Jennifer Owens pressed herself against the wooden seat so hard she thought her spine might crack. Anything to avoid looking at the team of horses pulling them forward through clouds of dust. Her hands trembled in her lap despite the heat, and she kept her eyes fixed on the floorboards, counting her breaths the way her mother had taught her years ago. One breath in, one breath out. Don't think about the horses. Don't think about their massive bodies and powerful legs and the way they could crush a person without even meaning to. The woman sitting across from her, a matronly type with graying hair and kind eyes, leaned forward. "Are you unwell, dear? You have been quite pale this entire journey." Jennifer managed a weak smile. "I will be fine once we stop moving. Not fond of travel, not fond of horses," Jennifer admitted quietly. The woman's eyebrows rose, but before she could respond, the stagecoach lurched to a halt. The driver's voice boomed from above, announcing their arrival in Oroville. Jennifer's stomach clenched. She had traveled nearly 3,000 miles from Boston to marry a man she had never met, and now she had arrived in a town that seemed to exist solely because of horses, cattle, and ranching. What had she been thinking? But she knew what she had been thinking. She had been thinking about the tiny room she shared with two other women in the boarding house. She had been thinking about the factory where she spent 14 hours a day sewing buttons onto shirts until her fingers bled. She had been thinking about the future that stretched before her, bleak and unchanging, unless she did something drastic. So when her friend Mary had shown her the advertisement in the newspaper, seeking a bride for a rancher in California, Jennifer had responded before she could talk herself out of it. The letters that followed had been encouraging. Harrison Nash wrote with a steady hand about his ranch, his work, his hope for a family. He seemed kind, practical, honest. He had mentioned horses exactly 37 times across his 5 letters. Jennifer had not mentioned her terror even once. The stagecoach door swung open, and bright sunlight flooded in. The other passengers began to disembark. Jennifer forced herself to stand on shaking legs, gathered her single carpet bag, and stepped out into the California heat. The town was smaller than she had imagined, a collection of wooden buildings lining a dusty main street. Mountains rose in the distance, purple and hazy in the afternoon light. Everywhere she looked, there were horses, tied to hitching posts, pulling wagons, being ridden down the street by men in wide-brimmed hats. "Miss Owens." Jennifer turned toward the voice and found herself looking up at a tall man with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair that curled slightly at the edges beneath his hat. His eyes were a startling shade of blue-green, like the ocean she had crossed on her way around South America during part of her journey west. He held his hat in his hands and was looking at her with an expression that seemed equal parts hopeful and nervous. "Mr. Nash?" she asked. "Harrison," he said, and his face broke into a smile that transformed his whole appearance. "Please call me Harrison. It is good to finally meet you, Miss Owens. Your letters, they meant a great deal to me these past months." "Jennifer," she said, "and yours to me as well." They stood there awkwardly for a moment, two strangers who had agreed to build a life together based on nothing but words on paper. Harrison was handsome, Jennifer noted in a rugged sort of way. His hands were calloused and strong, his shoulders broad. He looked exactly like what he was, a man who worked hard under the sun. "I have a wagon waiting," Harrison said, gesturing down the street. "I thought we could get your things and head back to the ranch before dark, unless you would prefer to stay in town tonight. There is a hotel and I could arrange a room." "The ranch is fine," Jennifer said, though her heart was pounding. A wagon meant horses. Of course it did. Everything here meant horses. Harrison picked up her carpet bag with one hand as if it weighed nothing. "Is this all you brought?" "I did not have much to bring," Jennifer admitted. "My life in Boston was not extravagant." "Well, I hope your life here will be better," Harrison said warmly. He started walking toward a wagon parked in front of the general store, and Jennifer followed, trying not to look at the two large bay horses hitched to it. Harrison loaded her bag into the back of the wagon, then turned to help her up onto the seat. His hand was warm and steady as she grasped it, climbing up with as much dignity as she could muster. She sat as far from the edge as possible, gripping the wooden seat with both hands. Harrison climbed up beside her and gathered the reins. Jennifer's breath caught in her throat as the horses shifted, their muscles rippling beneath their glossy coats. "You all right?" Harrison asked, glancing at her. "Fine," Jennifer said through clenched teeth. Harrison clicked his tongue and the horses began to move. Jennifer closed her eyes for a moment, then forced them open again. Closing her eyes made it worse somehow, made her more aware of every movement, every sound. They rode in silence for a few minutes as the town fell away behind them. The landscape opened up into rolling hills dotted with oak trees. It was beautiful, Jennifer had to admit, even through her fear. "The ranch is about 5 miles out," Harrison said. "I have about 200 head of cattle, some chickens, a few pigs. The house is not much, but it is solid. I built it myself 3 years ago." "That sounds wonderful," Jennifer said, and meant it. A house that was his that would now be hers too, a place to call home. "I should tell you," Harrison continued, "life out here can be hard. It is not like the city. We are pretty isolated. Town is a half-day's ride. The work is demanding. But the land is good, and I have been making a decent living." "I am not afraid of hard work," Jennifer said. "I have been working since I was 12 years old." Harrison nodded approvingly. "That is good to hear. I promise I will do right by you, Jennifer. I will work hard to make you happy." There was such sincerity in his voice that Jennifer felt some of her anxiety ease. "I will do the same," she promised. One of the horses tossed its head, and Jennifer flinched so hard she nearly lost her seat. Harrison's hand shot out to steady her, gripping her arm firmly. "Whoa there," he said. "You all right?" Jennifer's face burned with embarrassment. "I am sorry, I am not used to being around horses." "Not used to them," Harrison said, and there was confusion in his voice. "But you grew up in the city, didn't you? There must have been horses everywhere." "There were," Jennifer said quietly. "I avoided them as much as possible." Harrison was quiet for a moment, and Jennifer could feel him looking at her. "You are afraid of them," he said finally. It was not a question. There was no point in lying now. "Yes," Jennifer admitted. "I have been afraid of horses since I was 8 years old." "What happened when you were 8? Jennifer had not talked about it in years. She took a breath, watching the road ahead rather than looking at Harrison. "My father worked at a stable in Boston. I would visit him sometimes after school. One day a horse spooked, I do not know why. It reared up and came down on my father, right in front of me." Harrison's hand tightened on the reins. "God Almighty," he breathed. "He died 3 days later," Jennifer continued, her voice flat. "Internal injuries. I have not been able to be near a horse since without feeling like I cannot breathe." The wagon rolled on for several long minutes in silence. Jennifer waited for Harrison to say something, to express regret that she had come, to explain that this could never work. A ranch wife who was terrified of horses was useless. She knew that. "Why did you not tell me?" Harrison asked finally. "In your letters you never mentioned it." "I was afraid you would not want me to come," Jennifer said honestly. "And I needed to leave Boston. I needed a different life. I thought perhaps I could just avoid the horses, or that maybe being here would be different." "Jennifer," Harrison said gently, "everything here involves horses. The ranch, the work, getting to town, all of it. There is no avoiding them." I know, Jennifer said miserably. I realize that now. If you want to send me back, I will understand. Harrison pulled the wagon to a stop. He set the brake and turned to face her fully. Send you back? Why would I do that? Because I lied to you. Because I am useless as a ranch wife. You did not lie, Harrison said. You just did not tell me everything. That is not the same thing, and you are not useless. You are afraid. There is a difference. Jennifer finally met his eyes. They were kind, she realized. Whatever else Harrison Nash might be, he was kind. I cannot promise I will ever not be afraid, she said. I am not asking you to, Harrison replied. But I am asking you to let me try to help you. I am good with horses, Jennifer. It is what I do. And fear, well, fear can be worked through if you are willing to try. You would do that? Jennifer asked. Teach me, of course, Harrison said. You are going to be my wife. We are in this together now. Besides, he added with a small smile, I did not go to all the trouble of corresponding with you and waiting for you to arrive just to send you back on the first day. Despite everything, Jennifer felt herself smile. That is true. Harrison picked up the reins again. The ranch is just over this next hill. Let us get you settled in and we can talk more about all this later. One step at a time, all right, Jennifer agreed. The ranch house came into view as they crested the hill, and Jennifer felt her breath catch for an entirely different reason. It was beautiful. A simple wooden structure with a wide porch, set against a backdrop of oak trees and golden hills. A barn stood nearby along with several smaller outbuildings. A creek sparkled in the distance. This is yours, Jennifer breathed. Ours, Harrison corrected, if you will have it. Jennifer looked at the man beside her, this stranger who had offered her kindness when he could have offered judgment, and felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Hope, perhaps, or the beginning of it. Yes, she said, I will have it. Harrison's smile was like the sun coming out. He drove the wagon up to the house and climbed down, then came around to help Jennifer down. His hands were gentle as they circled her waist, lifting her easily to the ground. Welcome home, Jennifer, he said softly. Home. Jennifer looked around at the ranch, at the house that would shelter her, at the land that stretched out in every direction. Then she looked at Harrison, who was watching her with such hope in his eyes. Thank you, she said, for not sending me away. I would never, Harrison said firmly. He picked up her bag and gestured toward the house. Come on, let me show you around. The inside of the house was simple but clean. The main room served as both kitchen and sitting area with a stone fireplace against one wall. A bedroom opened off to one side, and Harrison gestured to it somewhat awkwardly. That is the bedroom, he said. I will sleep out here on the couch until you are comfortable with things. I do not want you to feel pressured. Jennifer felt her face heat, but she was grateful. That is very considerate. There is a pump out back for water, Harrison continued, and an outhouse behind the barn. I know it is not fancy. It is perfect, Jennifer said honestly. The house was small, but it was clean and well built. Through the window, she could see the golden hills and endless sky. It is more than I ever hoped for. Harrison looked pleased. Are you hungry? I am not much of a cook, but I can manage some basic things. I can cook, Jennifer said, if you show me where everything is. They worked together to prepare a simple supper of beans and cornbread. Harrison proved to be easy to talk to, pointing out where he kept various supplies and telling her about the ranch. Carefully avoiding any mention of the horses, she could hear occasionally neighing from the barn. After they ate, Harrison washed the dishes while Jennifer dried, and the domesticity of it felt strange and comfortable all at once. When they finished, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. I need to go check on the horses, Harrison said, glancing toward the barn. Make sure they have water and feed for the night. Jennifer nodded, her stomach tightening. Harrison hesitated at the door. "Would you like to come with me, just to watch from a distance?" "I do not think, no pressure," Harrison said quickly. "But Jennifer, if you are going to live here, you are going to see horses every day. Maybe it would help to start getting used to the idea, even if it is just from far away." Jennifer's first instinct was to refuse, but Harrison was right. She could not hide in the house forever. And something about the gentle patience in his voice made her want to try for him. "All right," she said quietly. From a distance, Harrison's face lit up. "That is all I ask." They walked across the yard as twilight settled over the ranch. Jennifer stayed several paces behind Harrison, her heart pounding harder with each step. When they were still 20 feet from the barn, she stopped. "This is as close as I can get," she said. "That is fine," Harrison assured her. "You stay right there." He walked to the barn and opened the large doors. Jennifer could see movement inside, hear the sounds of the horses shifting and nickering. Her hands were shaking, and she clasped them together tightly. Harrison disappeared inside for a few minutes. Jennifer focused on her breathing, trying to calm the panic that threatened to overwhelm her. She was being ridiculous. She knew she was being ridiculous. Horses were just animals. They did not mean harm. But when she closed her eyes, she could still see her father on the ground, blood spreading beneath him, his face pale and twisted in pain. Harrison emerged from the barn carrying 2 empty buckets. He walked to the pump near the barn and began filling them with water. The physical work was easy for him, Jennifer could see. His movements were efficient, practiced. When the buckets were full, he carried them back into the barn. Jennifer waited, counting her breaths. 1, 2, 3. Harrison came back out and walked over to her. "See, nothing scary. Just horses eating their dinner, same as we ate ours." "How many do you have?" Jennifer asked. 4, Harrison said. 2 for pulling the wagon and 2 for riding. I will introduce you to them sometime when you are ready." "What are their names?" "The wagon horses are Duke and Daisy," Harrison said. "The riding horses are Thunder and Copper." "Which one were we riding behind today?" Jennifer asked. "Duke and Daisy," Harrison said. "They are as gentle as can be. I have had them for 2 years now, and they have never given me a moment's trouble." Jennifer nodded, filing away this information. If she was going to overcome this fear, she needed to start thinking of the horses as individuals, not just as the monster that had killed her father. "Thank you for being patient with me," she said. "Jennifer, I meant what I said earlier. We are in this together. I will be patient for as long as it takes." They walked back to the house as darkness fell. Harrison lit the lamps and the house filled with warm, golden light. He pulled blankets and a pillow from a trunk and made up a bed for himself on the couch. "You should get some rest," he said. "I know the journey here must have been exhausting." "It was," Jennifer admitted. "Harrison, I just want to say thank you for everything, for giving me this chance." "Thank you for taking a chance on me," Harrison replied. "Sleep well, Jennifer." Jennifer went into the bedroom and closed the door. The room was simple, with a bed covered in a worn quilt, a dresser, and a small table with a lamp. She unpacked her few belongings, changed into her nightgown, and climbed into bed. Through the window, she could see the stars, more stars than she had ever seen in Boston, where the city lights obscured them. She could hear the soft sounds of the ranch settling in for the night. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. She was really here, really doing this. Married tomorrow to a man she had just met on a ranch full of the very creatures that terrified her most. But Harrison was kind. That counted for something. That counted for a lot, actually. Jennifer closed her eyes and, surprisingly, slept. She woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Harrison moving around in the kitchen. Early morning light streamed through the window. Jennifer dressed quickly in one of her plain work dresses and joined Harrison in the main room. "Morning," he said, looking up from the stove where he was frying eggs. "I hope you slept well." "I did, actually," Jennifer said. "Can I help?" "You can pour the coffee," Harrison said. "We have a big day ahead of us." "The wedding," Jennifer said, and felt her stomach flip. "The reverend in town agreed to perform the ceremony this afternoon," Harrison said. "I figured we could head into town late morning, get married, pick up some supplies, and be back before dark. Does that sound all right?" "Yes," Jennifer said. It was all happening so fast, but then again, what was the point in waiting? She had come here to marry him. They might as well get it done. They ate breakfast together, and Jennifer was pleased to find that the awkwardness from yesterday had faded somewhat. Harrison was easy to be around, she realized. He did not talk too much or too little, and he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and opinions. After breakfast, they prepared for the journey to town. Jennifer tried not to tense up as Harrison hitched Duke and Daisy to the wagon, but her body betrayed her anyway. "You are doing fine," Harrison said as he helped her onto the wagon seat. "Just keep breathing." The ride to town was easier than the day before, perhaps because Jennifer knew what to expect now. She kept her hands gripped on the seat and her eyes on the horizon, and Harrison kept up a steady stream of conversation that helped distract her. "I should tell you about some of the people in town," he said. "Doc Miller is the physician, good man, little gruff, but he knows his business. Mrs. Patterson runs the general store with her husband. She can be a bit of a gossip, but she is nice enough. Then there is Sheriff Cooper, he keeps the peace, and Reverend Martin, who will be marrying us today." "Are there many people in Oroville?" Jennifer asked. "Maybe 200 or so," Harrison said. "It has grown a fair bit since they found gold in the area back in the 50s. Most of that has played out now, but the town has sustained itself with ranching and farming." They reached Oroville just before noon. Harrison drove straight to the church, a small white building with a steeple. Reverend Martin was waiting for them, an elderly man with white hair and a gentle smile. "Harrison," he said warmly, shaking Harrison's hand, "and you must be Miss Owens. Welcome to Oroville." "Thank you, Reverend," Jennifer said. "Shall we proceed?" the Reverend asked. "I understand you would like to keep this simple." "Yes, sir," Harrison said. He looked at Jennifer. "Unless you want something different, simple is fine," Jennifer said. She had no family here, no friends yet. A small ceremony was practical. They entered the church, which was empty except for the Reverend's wife, who had agreed to serve as a witness. The ceremony was indeed simple. Jennifer and Harrison stood before the Reverend and repeated their vows, promising to love and honor each other. Harrison's voice was steady and sure. Jennifer's shook slightly, but she got through it. When the Reverend pronounced them man and wife, Harrison leaned down and kissed her gently on the cheek. "Hello, Mrs. Nash," he said softly. "Hello, husband," Jennifer replied and was surprised to find herself smiling. They signed the marriage certificate, thanked the Reverend and his wife, and stepped back out into the sunshine as husband and wife. "How does it feel?" Harrison asked. "Strange," Jennifer admitted. "But good strange." "I agree," Harrison said. He offered her his arm. "Shall we go to the general store? Mrs. Patterson will want to meet you, and we need a few supplies anyway." The general store was busy when they arrived. Mrs. Patterson, a plump woman with rosy cheeks and sharp eyes, spotted them immediately. "Harrison Nash, is this your bride?" she exclaimed, hurrying over. "Oh, my dear, welcome, welcome. We have been so curious about you." "Thank you," Jennifer said. "It is nice to meet you, Mrs. Patterson." "Let me get a good look at you," Mrs. Patterson said, taking Jennifer's hands. "Oh, you are a pretty thing." "And from Boston," Harrison said. "My goodness, what a journey you must have had." Jennifer answered Mrs. Patterson's questions as politely as she could while Harrison gathered supplies. Several other townspeople stopped by to introduce themselves and offer congratulations. Everyone seemed friendly, curious but not unkind. By the time they left the store, the sun was beginning its descent toward the western horizon. Harrison loaded the supplies into the wagon, helped Jennifer up, and they started the journey back to the ranch. That was not so bad, was it? Harrison asked. No, Jennifer said. Everyone seemed very nice. They are good people mostly, Harrison said. I think you will like it here once you settle in. When they arrived back at the ranch, Harrison unhitched the wagon and led Duke and Daisy toward the barn. Jennifer stood in the yard, watching. She wanted to help, but the idea of getting that close to the horses still filled her with dread. Harrison must have sensed her watching because he glanced over his shoulder. You want to come just a little closer, he called. Maybe stand at the barn door. Jennifer hesitated, then made herself walk forward. Her heart was pounding, but she forced her feet to move. She stopped at the barn door, gripping the frame with both hands. Inside, she could see Harrison removing the harnesses from the horses with quick, efficient movements. He talked to them as he worked, his voice low and soothing. That is it, Daisy girl. You did good work today. Duke, you too, old boy. The horses seemed to respond to his voice, standing calmly as he worked. When he finished, he led each horse to a stall and made sure they had water and feed. See, he said, walking back toward Jennifer. They are just animals doing their jobs, same as you or me. I know that in my head, Jennifer said, but my body does not seem to understand. That is all right, Harrison said. We will work on it. Tomorrow maybe you can come a little closer. We will take it slow. They went back to the house, and Jennifer prepared dinner while Harrison washed up. The evening passed pleasantly enough. After dinner, they sat on the porch and watched the sun set over the hills. I suppose I should tell you a bit more about myself, Harrison said. Since we are married now and all. I would like that, Jennifer said. I came out here from Missouri about 5 years ago, Harrison said. My family has a farm back there, but I am the youngest of 4 boys, and there was not much future for me staying. So I headed west, worked on various ranches for a few years, saved my money, and bought this land 3 years ago. Do you miss Missouri? Jennifer asked. Sometimes, Harrison admitted. I miss my family, but this place, it is mine, you know. Everything I have here I built with my own 2 hands. That means something. It does, Jennifer agreed. I understand that feeling. In Boston, nothing ever felt like mine. Not the room I lived in, not the job I worked, none of it. Well, this is yours now too, Harrison said. Our ranch, our home, our home. The words settled into Jennifer's chest, warm and solid. Harrison, she said carefully. About the sleeping arrangements, you do not have to keep sleeping on the couch. I mean, we are married now. Harrison looked at her, and even in the fading light she could see the surprise in his face. Jennifer, I do not want you to feel like you have to, I know, Jennifer interrupted. And I appreciate that. I think it would be good for us to share a room, to try to build a real marriage. Are you sure? Harrison asked. Jennifer was not entirely sure, but she nodded anyway. Yes. That night, Harrison moved his things into the bedroom. They lay in bed together, carefully maintaining a respectful distance, and Jennifer found that it was not as awkward as she had feared. Harrison was warm and solid beside her, and his presence was oddly comforting. Good night, Jennifer, he said softly into the darkness. Good night, Harrison, she replied. The next morning, Jennifer woke to find Harrison already up and dressed. She joined him in the kitchen, and they ate breakfast together. I need to check the cattle today, Harrison said. Make sure they are all accounted for and none of them have gotten themselves into trouble. I will be gone most of the day. What should I do? Jennifer asked. Whatever you like, Harrison said. There is mending that needs doing if you are inclined, or you could work in the garden out back. Or just rest. You have had a lot of change these past few days. I will find something to keep busy, Jennifer said. I am not much for sitting idle. After Harrison left, Jennifer explored the ranch house more thoroughly. She found a basket of mending and spent the morning sewing up tears in shirts and pants. Around midday, she ventured out to the garden Harrison had mentioned. It was a modest plot behind the house, with rows of beans, squash, and tomatoes. The plants looked healthy, but the garden needed weeding. Jennifer found some old gloves and set to work, enjoying the feel of the soil between her fingers and the warmth of the sun on her back. She was so absorbed in her work that she did not notice Harrison's return until she heard the barn door closing. She stood up, brushing dirt from her skirt, and walked around to the front of the house. Harrison was unsaddling one of the riding horses, the one he had called Thunder. He looked tired but smiled when he saw Jennifer approaching. "How was your day?" he asked. "Productive," Jennifer said, stopping a good distance from the barn. "I did some mending and weeded the garden." "Thank you," Harrison said. "I have been meaning to get to that garden for weeks." He finished with Thunder and led the horse into the barn. Jennifer waited outside, her earlier resolve to get closer wavering now that she was faced with the actual opportunity. Harrison emerged a few minutes later. "Jennifer, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you look at the horses, what is it exactly that frightens you most?" "Is it their size, the way they move, the sounds they make?" Jennifer thought about it. "All of it, I suppose, but mostly it is just remembering what they can do, the damage they can cause." Harrison nodded slowly. "That makes sense. But Jennifer, horses can sense fear. When you are afraid, they get nervous, and when they are nervous, they are more likely to act unpredictably. It becomes a circle." "So what do I do?" Jennifer asked. "You learn to be calm around them," Harrison said. "And the only way to do that is to spend time near them, to realize that most of the time, if you are calm and respectful, they will be calm too." "You make it sound simple." "It is not simple," Harrison admitted, "but it is possible. Will you try something with me?" "What?" "Come over here to the barn door. Just stand there while I bring one of the horses out. You do not have to touch it or even get close. Just watch." Jennifer's heart was already starting to race. "Harrison, I do not know if I can." "I will be right here," Harrison said. "And if it gets to be too much, just say so and I will put the horse back. But Jennifer, you need to start somewhere. And I think seeing one of the horses outside in the daylight might help you understand them better." Jennifer took a deep breath. He was right. She knew he was right. She could not spend the rest of her life afraid. "All right," she said, "but please make it one of the smaller ones." "I will bring out Copper," Harrison said. "She is the smallest and the gentlest of the bunch. Just stay right where you are." Harrison went into the barn. Jennifer stood at the door, every muscle in her body tense. A moment later, Harrison emerged leading a horse. Jennifer took an instinctive step back. Copper was smaller than the other horses, a pretty reddish-brown color with a white blaze on her forehead. She walked calmly beside Harrison, her ears pricked forward with interest. "Easy, girl," Harrison said softly. He stopped about 10 feet from Jennifer. "See, this is Copper. She is 6 years old, and she is about the sweetest-tempered horse you will ever meet." Jennifer watched, her breathing shallow. Copper looked at her with large, dark eyes. The horse did not seem threatening exactly, she just seemed curious. "What do you see when you look at her?" Harrison asked. "A large animal that could hurt me," Jennifer said honestly. "What else?" Jennifer forced herself to really look. "She has kind eyes," she admitted, "and she is standing very still." "That is because she is not afraid," Harrison said. "She is just interested in you. Horses are curious creatures, Jennifer. They like to know who is around them." Copper lowered her head and snorted softly. Jennifer flinched but held her ground. "Good," Harrison said approvingly. "You are doing great, Jennifer. "Do you want me to put her back now?" "Not yet," Jennifer heard herself say. She was terrified, but there was something else too. A tiny spark of interest, of curiosity to match Copper's. "Can you walk her around? I want to see how she moves." Harrison's smile was warm with pride. "Of course." He led Copper in a slow circle. The horse moved with grace, her hooves making soft sounds on the hard, packed earth. Harrison kept up his steady stream of talk, telling Jennifer about how he had bought Copper from a rancher in Sacramento, how she had been skittish at first but had learned to trust him. "All right," Jennifer said after a few minutes. "I think that is enough for today." "You did wonderfully," Harrison said. He led Copper back into the barn and returned a moment later. "How do you feel?" "Shaky," Jennifer admitted, "but also proud of myself a little." "You should be proud," Harrison said. "That was a big step." They walked back to the house together. That night at dinner, Harrison told her more stories about the horses, about learning to ride as a boy in Missouri, about the different personalities each of his horses had. "Duke is steady and reliable, but a little stubborn," he said. "Daisy is sweet, but she has a mischievous streak. Thunder is proud and high-spirited. And Copper, well, she is just gentle through and through." Jennifer listened, trying to picture the horses as individuals with personalities rather than as dangerous beasts. It helped a little. Over the next few weeks. They fell into a routine. Harrison would go about his ranch work, and Jennifer would handle the house and garden. Every evening, Harrison would bring one of the horses out and let Jennifer watch from a safe distance. Slowly, so slowly Jennifer almost did not notice, her fear began to ease just a fraction. She learned to recognize the horses by sight, to notice the differences in their coloring and build. She learned what their different sounds meant, the soft nickering of greeting versus the louder whinny of alarm, and she learned about Harrison too. She learned that he woke before dawn every day, and that the first thing he did was check on the animals. She learned that he had a dry sense of humor, and that he could fix almost anything with his hands. She learned that he was patient and kind, not just with her but with everything, the horses, the cattle, even the chickens. She learned that she was falling in love with him. It was a quiet sort of falling, not dramatic or overwhelming but steady and sure. It was in the way he always made sure to thank her for meals, the way he asked about her day and actually listened to her answers. It was in the careful respect he showed her, never pushing her too fast or too far. One evening, about a month after she had arrived, they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset when Harrison reached over and took her hand. It was the most deliberate physical contact they had shared since the awkward wedding kiss. "I have been thinking," Harrison said. "You have made so much progress with the horses. I think maybe you are ready for the next step." "What is the next step?" Jennifer asked. "Touching one," Harrison said. "Just reaching out and feeling the horse's neck, understanding that they are warm and alive, not monsters." Jennifer's first instinct was to refuse, but she looked at Harrison, at the hope and encouragement in his eyes, and found herself saying, "All right." "When?" "Tomorrow," Harrison said. "We will do it tomorrow." Jennifer hardly slept that night. When morning came, she was exhausted and nervous. Harrison seemed to sense her anxiety and kept up a steady stream of gentle conversation over breakfast. "We will use Copper again," he said. "And I will be right there with you the whole time. You can take as long as you need." After breakfast, they walked to the barn together. Jennifer's hands were shaking. Harrison brought Copper out and let the horse stand in the morning sunlight. "Come here," Harrison said, gesturing Jennifer closer. "Stand right next to me." Jennifer made herself move forward until she was standing at Harrison's side, closer to Copper than she had ever been. This close, the horse seemed enormous. "Here," Harrison said. He took Jennifer's hand in his. "I am going to guide your hand to touch her. Is that all right?" "Yes," Jennifer whispered, Harrison lifted their joined hands toward Copper's neck. The horse stood perfectly still, as if she understood the importance of this moment. Jennifer's hand made contact with Copper's coat, and she gasped. "It is all right," Harrison murmured. "Just feel it. She is warm, see? She is just an animal." Copper's coat was soft and smooth, warm from the sun. Jennifer could feel the horse's muscles beneath the skin, could feel the steady rise and fall of breathing. She kept her hand there for a moment, and nothing terrible happened. Copper just stood there, calm and patient. "She is very soft," Jennifer said, and was surprised to hear wonder in her own voice. "She is," Harrison agreed. "Do you want to try it on your own?" Jennifer hesitated, then nodded. Harrison released her hand, and Jennifer reached out by herself, placing her palm against Copper's neck. Her heart was pounding, but she did not pull away. "You are doing beautifully," Harrison said softly. Jennifer stroked Copper's neck, growing more confident with each passing second. The horse turned her head slightly and regarded Jennifer with one large, gentle eye. "She likes you," Harrison said. "How can you tell? See how relaxed she is. If she did not like you, she would move away or get restless. But she is just standing there, enjoying the attention." Jennifer continued petting Copper for another minute, then stepped back. She was trembling, but she was also smiling. "I did it," she said. "You did," Harrison said, and the pride in his voice made Jennifer's chest swell. "You were so brave." Harrison put Copper back in the barn, and when he returned, Jennifer surprised them both by throwing her arms around him. "Thank you," she said into his chest. "Thank you for being so patient with me." Harrison's arms came up around her, holding her close. "You do not have to thank me for that. I am your husband. It is my job to help you." Jennifer pulled back just enough to look up at him. They had been married for a month but had maintained a careful physical distance. Now, standing in his arms, she realized she did not want that distance anymore. "Harrison," she said softly, "I think I am ready for our marriage to be a real one." Understanding dawned in Harrison's eyes, followed by a warmth that made Jennifer's pulse quicken. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I am sure," Jennifer said. Harrison leaned down and kissed her, really kissed her for the first time. His lips were gentle but sure, and Jennifer felt heat unfurl in her belly. When they pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. "Come on," Harrison said, taking her hand. "Let us go inside." That night their marriage became real in every sense. Harrison was tender and careful, and Jennifer gave herself to him willingly, gladly. Afterward, lying in his arms, she felt a sense of contentment she had never known before. "I love you," Harrison said into the darkness. "I know it is fast, but I do. I love you, Jennifer." "I love you too," Jennifer whispered back, and knew it was true. The weeks turned into months. Fall came to Oroville, painting the hills in shades of gold and amber. Jennifer's fear of horses continued to diminish. She progressed from petting Copper while Harrison held the horse to petting her on her own. Then she started visiting the barn, first with Harrison and then by herself, to feed the horses treats of carrots and apples. "You are doing so well," Harrison told her one October afternoon. "I am so proud of you." "I still get nervous sometimes," Jennifer admitted, "but it is getting easier." "That is all anyone can ask," Harrison said. "Jennifer, I think you might be ready to try riding." Jennifer's stomach clenched. "I do not know about that." "Just think about it," Harrison said. "No pressure. But I think you can do it. And once you can ride, you will have so much more freedom. You could go to town on your own or ride out to see the parts of the ranch that are too far to walk to." Jennifer did think about it. The idea terrified her, but it also excited her in a way she had not expected. To be able to ride, to not be limited by her fear anymore, it would change everything. "Maybe," she said finally. "Let me work up to it." "Take all the time you need," Harrison said. November arrived, bringing cooler weather and the first hints of rain. Jennifer continued her work with the horses, spending time in the barn, learning to brush them, to clean their hooves, to saddle them under Harrison's patient instruction. One day, Harrison saddled Copper and led her out to the yard where Jennifer was waiting. "Today is the day," he said, "if you are willing." Jennifer looked at Copper at the saddle on her back and felt her heart race, but she also felt something else, determination. She had come so far. She did not want to stop now. "I am willing," she said. Harrison smiled. "Good. Now I am going to help you up, and then I am going to lead Copper around while you sit in the saddle. I will be right there the whole time holding the reins. You will not fall. I promise." Jennifer nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Harrison helped her put her foot in the stirrup and boost herself up. Suddenly, she was sitting on Copper's back, higher off the ground than she had expected. She gripped the saddle horn with both hands, her knuckles white. "Breathe," Harrison reminded her. "Just breathe, I have got you." Harrison began to walk, leading Copper in a slow circle. The horse moved smoothly beneath Jennifer, and after a moment, Jennifer realized that it was not as terrifying as she had thought. She was high up, yes, but Copper was steady and calm. "How do you feel?" Harrison asked. "Scared," Jennifer said honestly, "but also all right." "That is good," Harrison said. "Just keep breathing. Feel how Copper moves. She is carrying you, taking care of you." They walked in circles for maybe 10 minutes. By the end, Jennifer's grip on the saddle horn had loosened slightly, and her breathing had evened out. "That is enough for today," Harrison said. He stopped Copper and helped Jennifer down. "You did it. You actually rode a horse." Jennifer's legs were shaking, but she was grinning. "I did I not?" "You did," Harrison confirmed. He pulled her into a hug. "I am so proud of you, Jennifer. You have no idea." They practiced every day after that. Each time, Jennifer rode for a little longer, and each time, her confidence grew. Harrison taught her how to hold the reins, how to guide Copper with gentle pressure, how to sit properly in the saddle. By December, Jennifer was riding Copper on her own, with Harrison riding beside her on Thunder. They would ride out across the ranch, and Harrison would point out landmarks and tell her about the land. "This is the North Pasture," he would say. "In spring, the wildflowers here are incredible, and that is the old oak where I like to eat my lunch on hot days. It has the best shade on the whole property." Jennifer drank it all in, learning the ranch, learning this life she had chosen. And every day she felt more at home, more like she belonged here. Christmas came and they celebrated quietly, just the two of them. Harrison had carved her a beautiful jewelry box, and Jennifer had knitted him a thick wool scarf. They cooked a special dinner together and sat by the fire, talking and laughing. "I am so glad you came here," Harrison said that night. "I cannot imagine this place without you now." "Neither can I," Jennifer said. "This is home now, really home." Winter passed, bringing rain and cold, but also a cozy intimacy as they spent long evenings indoors together. Jennifer discovered she was carrying a child in February, and Harrison's joy was boundless. "A baby," he kept saying, shaking his head in wonder. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Jennifer asked, though his expression made the answer clear. "Happy does not begin to cover it," Harrison said. He pulled her close, his hand resting gently on her still flat stomach. "Thank you, Jennifer, for everything, for taking a chance on me, for coming here, for being so brave." "I think you are the one who deserves thanks," Jennifer said. "You taught me to face my fear. You taught me to trust again, not just horses, but people, myself." Spring arrived, bringing new life to the ranch. The cattle had calves, the chickens had chicks, and Jennifer's belly began to swell with their child. She could ride comfortably now, though she was careful not to overdo it. One warm April afternoon, she was riding Copper through the North Pasture, just as Harrison had described. It was carpeted in wildflowers, a sea of orange poppies and purple lupines. She dismounted and stood there, taking in the beauty of it. Copper grazed nearby, perfectly content. Jennifer looked at the horse and realized that she felt no fear at all anymore, just affection for this gentle creature who had been so patient with her. "Thank you," Jennifer said to the horse, "for helping me heal." Copper raised her head and regarded Jennifer calmly, then went back to grazing. When Jennifer rode back to the ranch house, she found Harrison on the porch, whittling a piece of wood. He looked up as she approached and smiled. "Good ride," he called. "The best," Jennifer said. She dismounted easily, without any of the nervousness that had once plagued her. She led Copper to the barn, unsaddled her, brushed her down, and made sure she had water and feed. All tasks that would have been impossible for her a year ago. All tasks that now felt natural, normal. Harrison was waiting for her when she came out of the barn. He took her hand and pulled her close. "I saw you riding in," he said. "You looked so confident, so at ease. Do you remember when you first arrived how scared you were?" "I remember," Jennifer said. "I remember thinking this was the biggest mistake I had ever made. And now I know it was the best decision of my life," Jennifer said firmly. "Coming here, marrying you, learning to face my fear, all of it, I would not change any of it." Harrison kissed her softly. "Good, because I would not change it either." The baby came in September, a healthy boy with his father's blue-green eyes and his mother's dark hair. They named him Henry, after Harrison's grandfather. Jennifer recovered quickly from the birth, and soon she was back to her routines, though now with a baby strapped to her back in a sling Harrison had fashioned. She tended the garden, cared for the house, and yes, cared for the horses. Little Henry grew surrounded by the animals his mother had once feared. By the time he was 2, he was toddling around the barn while Jennifer did chores, completely fearless. "He has your way with horses," Jennifer told Harrison one day, watching their son pat Copper's leg with a chubby hand. "And your bravery," Harrison replied. "After all, you faced down your greatest fear. That takes more courage than anything." 3 years after Jennifer had first arrived in Oroville, a second child joined their family, a daughter they named Jane. Like her brother, she grew up knowing no fear of the animals that were so much a part of ranch life. The ranch prospered. Harrison expanded the herd and bought more land. Jennifer started a small business selling eggs and vegetables to the general store in town. They built an addition onto the house to accommodate their growing family. Life was not always easy. There were droughts and harsh winters, sick animals and failed crops. But they faced it all together, and Jennifer never once regretted her decision to answer that advertisement all those years ago. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Harrison surprised Jennifer by taking her back to the church where they had married. Reverend Martin, now quite elderly, was still there. "I wanted to renew our vows," Harrison explained. "Because the first time, we were strangers making promises we hoped we could keep. Now I want to make those promises again, knowing exactly who you are and loving every part of you." They stood before Reverend Martin once more, with Henry and Jane as witnesses this time. They repeated their vows, their voices strong and sure, and when Harrison kissed her, Jennifer tasted joy and home and belonging. Afterward, they rode home together, side by side on Thunder and Copper, with the children riding in a cart pulled by Duke and Daisy. The sun was setting over the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "I was thinking," Harrison said as they rode, "maybe we should get another horse or two. Henry is getting big enough to have his own mount, and it will not be long before Jane wants one too." "That sounds like a good idea," Jennifer agreed. "Maybe we could go to Sacramento next month, see what they have." "You know," Harrison said thoughtfully, "there is a young woman in town, works at the hotel. She mentioned the other day that she is terrified of horses but needs to learn to ride for her job. I thought maybe you could help her." Jennifer looked at him in surprise. "Me? Help someone learn to ride? Why not?" Harrison said. "You know what it is like to be afraid. You would understand what she is going through better than anyone." Jennifer considered this. The idea of teaching someone else, of helping them overcome the same fear that had once ruled her life, appealed to her. "All right," she said. "I will talk to her." And she did. Word spread, and soon Jennifer found herself teaching not just one but several women who wanted to learn to ride but were held back by fear. She was patient and understanding, using the same techniques Harrison had used with her. Harrison would watch her sometimes, leading a nervous student around the yard on copper, speaking in that same calm, encouraging voice he had once used with her. And he would feel his heart swell with pride and love. Years passed. Henry and Jane grew into capable young people who could ride and rope and work the ranch as well as their father. The ranch continued to thrive, becoming one of the most successful in the area. Jennifer, once the terrified mail-order bride who could not bear to be near a horse, became known throughout the county as the woman who could teach anyone to ride, no matter how afraid they were. She never forgot what it felt like to be paralyzed by fear, and that empathy made her an exceptional teacher. On quiet evenings, Harrison and Jennifer would sit on the porch like they had done so many times before, watching the sun set over their land. Sometimes Henry would join them with his own young family, or Jane with her husband. But sometimes it was just the two of them, holding hands and watching the horses graze in the pasture. "You ever miss Boston?" Harrison asked one such evening, though he already knew the answer. "Not even a little bit," Jennifer said. She looked around at the ranch, at the home they had built together, at the life they had created. "This is where I belong, with you. I knew it the day you refused to send me back, when you offered to help me instead of judging me. I knew it the moment you stepped off that stagecoach," Harrison said. "Scared to death but trying so hard to be brave. I thought, there is a woman worth knowing, a woman worth loving." "And now?" Jennifer asked, though she was smiling. "Now I know I was right," Harrison said. He pulled her closer and she rested her head on his shoulder. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Jennifer Nash. You taught me to ride," Jennifer said softly, "but more than that, you taught me to trust again. To trust myself, to trust others, to trust that life could be good and full of possibility instead of fear." "We taught each other," Harrison corrected. "You taught me about strength, about what real courage looks like. Anyone can be brave when they are not afraid. But facing something that terrifies you and doing it anyway, that is true bravery." They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell, and the stars came out, bright and numerous in the clear California sky. Somewhere in the barn, one of the horses nickered softly. In the house behind them, they could hear the sounds of their children and grandchildren talking and laughing. This was happiness, Jennifer thought. This moment, this life, this man beside her. It was everything she had never dared to hope for back in that tiny room in Boston. Back when she was sewing buttons with bleeding fingers and dreaming of something more. She had taken the biggest risk of her life by getting on that stagecoach and traveling across the country to marry a stranger. And that risk had given her everything. A home, a family, a purpose, love, most of all love. "I love you," Jennifer said, like she had said 1,000 times before and would say 1,000 times more. "I love you too," Harrison replied, like he always did, like he always would. And as the night settled over the ranch, the horses resting in their stalls and the cattle settling in the fields, Jennifer and Harrison sat together on their porch. Two people who had found exactly what they needed in each other, and knew that whatever the future brought, they would face it together, just like they always had. The ranch that had once seemed so frightening, full of the very creatures that haunted Jennifer's nightmares, had become home. The horses that had once terrified her had become her companions, her teachers, her friends, and the man who had been a stranger had become the great love of her life. Jennifer had come to Oroville, California in 1882 as a frightened mail-order bride, running from her past and uncertain of her future. But she had stayed and built a life, and learned that fear did not have to be the end of the story. With patience and love and the willingness to try, fear could become courage, and strangers could become family, and a ranch full of horses could become the safest place in the world. That was the true gift Harrison had given her, not just teaching her to ride, though that was important, but showing her that she was stronger than she knew, braver than she believed, and worthy of love and happiness and a good life. And Jennifer had given him gifts in return. A home filled with warmth and laughter, children who carried on his legacy, a partner who understood both the hardship and the beauty of ranch life. Love that deepened and strengthened with each passing year. They had built something together, something that would last long after they were gone. A family, a legacy, a love story for the ages. And every time Jennifer rode out across the ranch on Copper, feeling the wind in her hair and the sun on her face, with no fear in her heart, only joy and freedom and belonging, she remembered that first terrifying day when she arrived in Oroville. She remembered Harrison's kindness when he could have shown disappointment or anger. She remembered his patience as he helped her take those first tiny steps toward healing. She remembered the moment she first touched Copper's neck and realized that maybe, just maybe, she could do this. And she remembered falling in love, slowly and surely, with the cowboy who had looked at her terror not as a weakness, but as something that could be overcome, who had seen her potential when she could not see it herself, who had believed in her when she did not believe in herself. That was what Jennifer thought about on quiet evenings, surrounded by the life she had built, the family she had raised, the legacy she would leave behind. Not the fear that had once controlled her, but the love that had set her free. Harrison squeezed her hand, and Jennifer squeezed back, and they watched the stars come out over their ranch, their home, their life together. And it was good. It was so good. The years had been kind to them. They had faced challenges and overcome them. They had celebrated victories and mourned losses. They had watched their children grow and their grandchildren arrive. They had worked hard and laughed often and loved deeply. And through it all, the horses had been there. The horses that had once represented Jennifer's greatest fear had become symbols of her greatest triumph. They were part of the family now, as much as any of the human members, faithful and true. As Jennifer and Harrison grew older, they eventually passed the day-to-day running of the ranch to Henry, who had his father's skill with animals and his mother's patience with people. But they still lived in the house Harrison had built all those years ago, still sat on the porch in the evenings, still visited the barn to feed treats to whatever horses were there. Copper lived to be 22 years old, a good long life for a horse, and when she finally passed peacefully in her sleep one spring morning, Jennifer wept like she was losing an old friend, because she was. Copper had been the horse who had helped her heal, who had been patient with her fear, who had carried her on that first terrifying ride that had changed everything. They buried Copper on a hill overlooking the ranch, under an old oak tree, and Jennifer visited the spot often in the years that followed, always with a word of thanks for the gentle mare who had helped give her back her life. Harrison passed first, 20 years after that first night he had brought Copper out for Jennifer to see, 20 years of learning and growing and loving together. He died the way he had lived, peacefully and with dignity, surrounded by his family. His last words were to Jennifer, "Thank you," he whispered, "for saying yes, for taking a chance on me, for building this life with me." "Thank you," Jennifer whispered back through her tears, "for teaching me to ride, for teaching me to trust again, for loving me." Jennifer lived another 5 years after Harrison's death, long enough to see another generation of grandchildren arrive, long enough to pass on her stories and her wisdom and her love. And when her time came, she went peacefully, surrounded by family, content in the knowledge that she had lived a good life, a full life, a life worth living. They buried her next to Harrison on the ranch they had built together, under the wide California sky, within sight of the barn where she had taken those first frightening steps toward healing, where she had learned that love and patience could overcome even the deepest fear. And on quiet evenings, if you listened carefully, some said you could hear the soft whinny of horses on the wind, and the sound of laughter from the porch, and the whisper of 2 voices speaking words of love that would echo through the generations. A reminder that even the most terrifying journey can lead to home, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say yes to an uncertain future and trust that love will see you through. The ranch continued for generations, passed down through the family, and the story of Jennifer and Harrison became part of its foundation, a tale told to children and grandchildren about courage and love, and the power of patience to heal even the deepest wounds. It became a story about how a terrified mail-order bride found her home and her heart in the California hills, about how a kind cowboy taught her to ride, and in doing so, taught her to live again. And every time a new generation faced their own fears, they remembered Jennifer and Harrison, and they knew that with love and support and the courage to take that first scary step, anything was possible. Even overcoming your greatest fear, even building a life more beautiful than you ever dreamed. That was the legacy Jennifer and Harrison left behind. Not just a successful ranch or a large family, though they left those things too, but something more precious. The knowledge that fear does not have to define you, that love can heal, and that sometimes the best things in life come from taking a risk on the unknown. And so their story ended, as all stories must, but the love they built lived on in their children and grandchildren, in the ranch they had created, in the lessons they had taught, and in the memories of all who knew them. A mail-order bride who was terrified of horses. A cowboy who taught her to ride and to trust again. 2 people who found each other against all odds and built something beautiful together. It was a love story, a Wild West love story. And it was true, every word of it, as true as the California sun and the horses in the barn and the love that can grow between 2 people willing to take a chance on each other. The end of their lives, but not the end of their story. Because love stories like theirs never truly end. They echo through time, inspiring others, showing what is possible when you face your fears with someone who believes in you, when you choose courage over comfort, when you trust that the scary journey might just lead you exactly where you need to be. Jennifer and Harrison Nash. A mail-order bride and the cowboy who loved her. A woman who feared horses and the man who taught her to ride. 2 hearts that found each other in the Wild West and built a love that lasted a lifetime and beyond. That was their story. That was their truth. That was their legacy. And it was beautiful.